Hello everyone, welcome back to Trek-A-Day, and today we have two more volumes from the Japanese Star Trek Best Episode Collection. Today, volumes 11 and 12. And as you can see from the cover image, this includes TNG's Galaxy's Child, Whispers, and Day of Honor. Galaxy's Child, the infamous episode with Geordi and Leah Brahms, as Geordi finds that his fantasy of Leah Brahms is not quite matching up to the reality, and the situation worsens when she comes across and misunderstands the holographic representation of her that's in the program that Geordi had previously used in Booby Trap. Very understandably, and she is very understandably upset, and it touches upon, but only lightly, this is one thing with Galaxy's Child, I wish it had gone into a little bit more, but it's hard with the time constraints of that just one episode, the ethical dilemmas of depictions of real people, especially living real people, within the holodeck. That's only lightly touched upon within the context of the situation between Geordi and Leah Brahms, an episode that I'd like to talk about in depth a little bit more sometime when I get around to this one. There's a lot of interesting ideas in the general science fiction plot as well that moves things along as they work together to solve a problem, works well. So, an interesting episode, and one that has a lot of layers to peel back and talk about. Then we have Deep Space Nine's Whispers, a clone mystery that has that feeling of a twist towards the end, the changing perspective, and what seems to be normal and what seems to be wrong are flipped on their head, and it's an interesting idea. It's never been one of my favorites, but I do think that it works pretty well, and Colm Meaney is probably the biggest reason why the concept comes across well. Probably my favorite of the bunch here. As a big B'Elanna fan, we have Day of Honor, which is also a good early 7 of 9 episode, and one of the few cases where we see in a later Voyager, at least like mid-run episode, Voyager's solitary position being so far away from any help or Starfleet or anything does end up being a big problem, as the aliens that they do attempt to help find their assistance lacking, and Voyager finds himself in a precarious position and largely outnumbered, and that is all backdrop to an episode that very largely focuses on B'Elanna and the Klingon Day of Honor, and just the general bad day that she is having. And then her and Tom are sent after they have to eject the warp core, in one of my favorite moments with them, when the shuttle is destroyed and they are stuck out in space in their EV suits, and B'Elanna finally lets her guard down and they express their true feelings. That's the real big starting point of the Tom and B'Elanna relationship. So a very important episode for those two characters, and generally a good one overall of Voyager. The better collection episodes, these are fantastic. In fact, 2 of these 3 are on my top 100 ever. In Volume 12, some good Romulan-focused episodes. We have from TNG, The Defector, where we have a Romulan defector who is seeking asylum aboard the Enterprise and says that he has pertinent information to a Romulan plot for invasion of the Federation. And it's a fantastic story that I think is one of the best representations of the real Romulan style treachery and manipulation, a way that feels so uniquely thought out and just is one of those that gets across the cultural context of the Romulans so well, and the struggles of the tense political situation and whether or not to believe this defector or not to believe him, and the twist with what's really happening at the end, all just comes together and works so well. One of my all-time favorites. And then, of course, In the Pale Moonlight, one of the best episodes in the entire franchise. One that you have and will continue to hear me talk about in videos to come, because it's one of those I keep coming back to. It's just one of the most incredible television experiences ever. Just fantastic. And Avery Brooks, his performance in this episode is probably my favorite individual performance of an actor on Star Trek. So, an absolute classic. And then a great Voyager episode that I don't really hear talked about a lot, one of the better ones in the earlier seasons. We have Eye of the Needle. Bit of false hope of getting a message home. A little bit of a time travel situation as well, when Voyager finds a wormhole that they are unable to pass through, but they can send a message or small object through, or an individual, not realizing at first that the other end of the wormhole is in the past. It's an interesting story that does have a follow-up in one of the novels that's pretty fascinating as well. So overall, I think a really good Voyager episode, and a good Voyager episode that includes a species that isn't as relevant to Voyager's journey with the Romulans. So the rare case of that as well. So overall, a great pairing here. Volumes 11 and 12, a really good selection of Star Trek.